thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoy your content. I found you a few weeks ago, actually, and I
Hmm.
started watching all of your stuff. There is so much insight for me and value in your content. And I was very interested in who you are and about your story. Because the Insanity podcast is actually about all that kind of stuff, about people who like to think for themselves, who like to create content to inspire others, and most of all, to inspire others to follow their heart and to be themselves, so to be authentic. And I think you do that kind of stuff. So that's how I found you. Then I also took a look at your story, like where you come from, and I thought, whoa, you kind of live my life a little bit, or like part
Oh
of
wow.
what my dream was when I was little, because I saw that you wanted to go to Juilliard. You wanted to be like an artist. This is pretty much my path. So I would be very interested in your story, in your message, what drives you, what your passion is, and yeah, how it all came together. And then I would love to let the conversation flow, because there is actually a very huge topic that I want to discuss with you, which is freedom and free speech. And yeah, I'll be
Sure.
very interested in your take on that.
Okay, great. Well, where to begin? So before I did anything here with, the mask and Antiprophet, I actually used to be a violinist. I was a professional
Yeah.
violinist. And the funny thing here is that for the first 17, like up until I was age 17, I actually hated the violin. I started the violin when I was 4, and up until 17, I hated it. But then when I turned 17, I went to a music festival by the name of the Aspen Music Festival in school. And I went there. And I think that was probably my first run in with actually like really good musicians. And as a result, I was like, oh man, this is pretty cool. I feel like maybe I
Hmm.
could do this like professionally just because I've been doing it for so long anyway. Maybe I could just do this. The
Yeah.
problem was most of the people at that music festival had been serious about the violin for 13 years. And I was just starting from that festival, getting serious about the violin. So, all my friends there, once the like senior admissions process began, all of these guys were applying to Juilliard, CIM, Curtis, NEC, Peabody, all these different conservatories. So I applied to a number of the big ones. Didn't even get invited to an audition out of the three out of the 4 that I applied to. But ended up doing an audition at Peabody, didn't get in. And this was like crushing. Oh my God, this was like so humiliating at the time. But I had gotten in with a full ride scholarship plus some money to Utah State University. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know what else to do. So let's do this. So got in there and went in with like a big chip on my shoulder for about the first year. And then after the first year, I was like, okay, look, I'm here. I might as well make the most of it. Let's actually do something with this. So the rest of my undergrad, I worked really, really hard and got a lot better too. I mean,
Hmm.
I was playing some pretty serious repertoire by the end of it. And the plan was to then audition for a master's degree, that kind of thing. But I ended up meeting my ex-wife out of
Hmm.
college, and just ended up not doing the master's thing. And in retrospect, again, I between not getting into these different conservatories and also not following through with like my master's, there was a part of me that was like, oh man, like I'm like a total failure. I went into all of this wanting to be like a concert master or something, or a soloist, and there's just it's very clear at this point there's no way to do this, but like I need to make it work somehow. But like I think with a little bit of hindsight looking back, like not getting into any of these conservatories was actually the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Because had I gotten in, I probably would have gotten in without any scholarship. And my mother, being my mother, would have co-signed that lease, and I would have just like signed
Hmm.
us up for $250,000 worth of debt
Yeah.
for nothing.
For
You know,
nothing.
I had a I had a lot of friends who went to
Hmm.
conservatory, got no scholarship, because you do that again. You get into Juilliard with no scholarship. You're like, okay, well, I don't care how much it costs. I'm going to go. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you do that, and you think that you're going to come out the other side, like playing with like a major quartet or a major orchestra, or get like a really great teaching position. But all of my friends who went to these crazy conservatories came out the other side and ended up working like admin positions at
Hmm.
like the local university.
Yeah.
So they're like stuck with all of this debt. They're playing the same weddings I'm playing, the same gigs that I'm playing. So it's just, again, like literally that was like the biggest godsend of like my entire life, that I didn't get into any of those places, because it would have ruined my financial life at least for 10-15 years. So
Yeah.
anyway, from there, I again met my ex-wife. That was a very tumultuous relationship, really, really difficult. Lots of just things that I had to deal with that I probably should not have had to deal with. We can get more into that later if you want, but suffice it to say, it was very bad. Ended up breaking up 5 years in after we had gotten married, and went our separate ways. And that was really, really hard, because I didn't just lose my wife. That year, my marriage, I lost, my best friend, who was the best man at my wedding. I lost my second best friend, who was the second person in line at my wedding. Lost my job to COVID, was living in my mother's basement. My dad had died a year and a half prior to
Oh
all of this. So
shit.
it was
Yeah.
just, it was a really rough period of time. And, because I wasn't working, I didn't have any students for violin. I wasn't playing any gigs. I
Mm.
really just had about a year and a half to sit and think. And throughout that period of time, I really kind of just started looking back on my life and trying to take stock of all of the decisions that I had made up until that point. Because, I think a lot of people walk away from like really terrible relationships and say, oh, the other person's full of shit. The other
Yeah.
person sucks. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can do that. But at a certain point, the only thing that's going to help you moving forward is to like try and reflect on the situation so that you don't make the same mistake again. That's the only control that you have moving forward. So I spent a year and a half doing that. Ended up going down to Rio de Janeiro for 3 months for reflection, down to Jamaica for a month for reflection. Ended up signing up for two clinical trials where they put experimental drugs in my body for money to spend some time reflecting. And then on the other side of that, I kind of throughout, I was trying to learn digital marketing
Mhm.
just to kind of fill the time outside of like, not doing anything with violin. And then I ended up randomly applying for a major content creators team to be his COO, coming from a background in music. And somehow I got the job. So I got that job. He moved me out to Bali. And then while I was here, I started doing Antiprophet anonymously with the mask. And then Antiprophet blew up and I moved over into this. So that was a very, very condensed look at the last 15 years.
Wow. Well, I really love your story. Most of all, I love the takeaway, which is I don't blame other people for my life. I don't try to shift responsibility. I actually take ownership of my life, and I want to see what I can do with what I have. That's such a beautiful and powerful message, and I don't see that a lot because we tend to outsource responsibility very often,
Mm,
and that's so great to see where it can lead you. Like it can lead you to your actual path, to your authentic path, to your calling, and to the thing that you are actually meant to do or that actually fits best to you and matches with who you are. And that's just such a beautiful proof for what I'm always saying.
mhm,
So I kind of like to see how it works out for people like you know, who can make a living on their passion, who probably didn't always know what their passion was along the way, and they just had this idea or this concept of themselves that wasn't even them somehow, but they
mm.
just tried to go for it anyway. They tried to push, um, and then they figure out along the way, whoa, I'm meant to do something else, and it's probably content. It's probably being my own thing. It's probably inventing something that has never been there before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is kind of a funny thing about the music stuff is I again, I turned 17, I went to this festival, and I was like, wow, this is cool. But I think in retrospect, the only thing that was kind of going on in the back of my brain is like, oh shit, I'm gonna graduate high school soon and I need to major in something. And it
Yeah.
seems like I'm getting the most like social adulation from the violin, even though
Hmm.
I'm like at the bottom of the barrel in terms of like the level of talent that's actually out there. Like in my social group, in my immediate surroundings in Salt Lake City, Utah, like this is what people like literally give me applause over. Let's do
Hmm.
that. It really had nothing to do with like a genuine love for it. It was almost like an ego thing to a certain degree,
Yeah.
and letting go of that was difficult. And I don't think I would have let go of it unless like literally the entire world fell apart in like 2020.
Yeah.
That had to be the catalyst for me to let go. So as shitty as that situation was in 2020, when every my whole life kind of fell apart, I'm also very grateful in retrospect. Otherwise, I would
Yeah.
still be, a musician, like trying to hustle together gigs in Salt Lake City, Utah, just living the same life that, as time went on, I was realizing more and more that I kind of made the wrong choice. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I have a background in music too. Like my dad is a musician. He's a classic pianist,
oh, great.
one of the most famous ones in Ukraine, actually. So I grew
Right.
up with music and with piano. And in that case, I didn't want to play anymore because I was so pushed into it and forced into it. And I decided for myself, I don't want to do that pretty early because it felt like it's not my calling. Although, you're good at it, probably you have fun with it, but it's not really what you're supposed to do here.
Yeah.
And that's like an intuitive thing. If you can listen to yourself, you can do all that. That's really wonderful. Yeah. And when I found your content, it was also all about politics right now. You would also talk a lot about tech stuff. So, and I see that people will miss that. So I wanted to ask you, where's like the connection from music to the tech stuff? Is it just a passion of yours?
I actually built Antiprophet on like politics stuff.
Mhm.
The tech stuff, like the AI stuff, I really only posted about for like 6 weeks in
Oh,
total.
okay.
But I went 100% AI because I'll try and give you the short version of this. I actually grew Antiprophet on like alt-right ideology. I was playing with a lot of like fascist ideas.
Hmm.
And in retrospect, the reason why that was is because I was just dealing with kind of a lot of internal stuff. I've been sober for about 2 years. And the funny thing with like getting sober from alcohol is once you get sober, everyone's like, oh my God, it's so great. Like you've like cleaned up all of your problems or whatever. But
Yeah.
the problem with alcohol is once you stop using it, like all of the emotions that caused you to drink in the first place are still there and you're just starting to actually work on them, right?
Mhm.
And I had a lot of stuff that I was still carrying around like years later from that 2020 period of my life. And again, I just don't think that it was any coincidence that I was trying to deal with these things, trying to like reintegrate into the world, even on like a social level. Just how do I talk to people out in public? How do I like socialize?
Mhm.
Um, Dealing with all of these different things, and also putting some pretty not very happy content on the internet. Again, if you ever have time, I would actually recommend going as far back in my feed as you can to maybe
Okay.
like April of last year
Hmm.
and just see like the complete difference of content that I created. So anyway,
I will do
I
that. Can I send you my review on that?
yeah, please do. But if
Okay.
if we do a second conversation, bring it to the
Mhm.
second conversation. We'll
Yes.
we'll go into
Okay.
it. Yeah,
Awesome.
that, that's a good idea. So anyway, at about like June of last year, I started getting to a place where I was like, you know what? God, I hate making this kind of content. And I think the reason I'm making this kind of content is just because I'm so miserable
Mhm.
in here. Right. So I took about 2 months off and really just spent that amount of time just sitting and thinking. And when I came out the other side, I was like, I don't want to continue posting like what I'm posting. I hate it. I actually think that it's a net negative for the world. Um, and as a result, I was like, you know what? I need to figure out something else to post about. So I did AI
Mhm.
exclusively for like 6, 8 weeks. And that was until like really the election happened. And then I was like, oh God, this is all going to be really bad. So at that point, I really kind of started pivoting back into politics just because there are some serious problems kind of in American politics at the moment. And seeing as politics in general was my bread and butter in terms of what I was commenting about originally,
Mhm.
it even made sense, I guess, from a business perspective. However, the thing that I can say is doing a 180 politically on your audience is not a very profitable decision. A lot of people are very upset with that change. But I think from the very beginning, I called myself Antiprophet for a reason.
Mhm.
The goal here was not to basically be a cheerleader for anyone and their political beliefs. The idea is to always like challenge yourself, to always force yourself to look at the other side, because if you're not able or willing to do that, you're caught in a cult. And I would say that about the left or the right. Um, so, if someone can watch my videos, even if they disagree with me, they are able to take a look at this white mask on screen, project their own ideas onto it, play around with those different ideas, and then at the very least, even if they don't agree with me, they can articulate to themselves
Yeah.
at a higher level of why they don't agree with me,
Hmm.
which helps them in their everyday life. Because if they can articulate to themselves why it is that they believe what they believe, then when they get into in-person conversations with the people that they love, there's a higher likelihood that it won't turn into a screaming match because
Yeah.
they're able to articulate what it is that they believe in, ideally in a calm way, because they've kind of spent the time thinking about it. So that's the way that I've always approached my content. But again, my audience, a number of people in my audience are very unhappy with my 180 shift as of late.
Yeah, yeah, I can totally see that because it is like so much easier to just throw something out, to just say something negative, to just criticize, but without actually explaining why. And I had a hard time with that attitude of comments of people who would comment whatever in
Mm,
general, because I mean I'm obviously not an American, and for me it was kind of difficult to say, okay, what would be my take on conservative? Am I conservative? Would I be more liberal? What would be my actual take? It's hard to say when you are far away. Now that I'm not far away anymore, I just wanted to know, and like I'm just there digging around. I'm in the comment sections, and I'm trying to find people who can explain stuff to me. And it's like,
mhm,
so, like also from their perspective, and what I see very often is a little bit disappointing. And I'm actually very disappointed because not everyone can explain their position. People are just very emotional about the entire situation. But what I see more often is people from the liberal side being able to actually having a point and then following a straight line to make conclusions, like to bringing out arguments that will match with the point that they were originally making. And on the other side, I don't see that so often. And I was really very confused. And now I'm like, okay, I guess that it is what it is right now. But yeah, I try to find it out for myself. And I think videos like yours reveal a lot, most of all, not just because of your takes, but mainly because of what people make out of them. And I also think, as someone who's just watching and commenting, you would benefit from writing an actual explanation for your opinion because this also makes you understand things on a deeper level. It's for me, it's the same. When I explain something, I understand it even better. If you want to learn something, teach it. I mean, we say that
mhm.
for a reason. And if you want to learn it better, explain it. And people are oftentimes not able to explain things, and it's very, very disappointing. And a few days ago, I saw, I think now it's two of your videos about free speech. And you had a very hot take on something, but I really appreciated it because it made me think. Because you said that you are not completely for free speech, at least not in the way that it is practiced right now. And I thought that's so interesting. You know what? I will Google free speech now and I will look up the actual definition of it because what free speech is in my head and what it actually seems to mean are two different things. And maybe that's the same for many people. Because what I kind of found out, I mean, you just have to Google it. Okay, but free speech is basically means you are able to express your opinion and your beliefs without being arrested. So that's free speech. And I thought, okay, but who guarantees that what you are saying is actually you, is actually your opinion, is actually your belief? If you're totally brainwashed, then who cares about what you are saying? Because what you are doing is not expressing your free mind. It's not expressing yourself authentically. It's just repeating something somebody else said. And then the entire topic of free speech doesn't make any sense anymore because you are not like expressing yourself freely at that point. And this is what I think upsets so many people because in their head, free speech is something like, but I have to express myself. Yeah, but who are you and what do you actually want to express?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think I'll say something that actually deals with my comment section and then this free speech thing. I think the difficulty that we've run into right now is a lot of this isn't just excuse me happening to the United States. This is happening to governments all over the world
Yeah.
and citizens of countries all over the world. But a big way for foreign governments to kind of change the political undertones of a country is for countries to put together entire bot farm operations to go into comment sections inside of like US political content and just post the most inflammatory takes in the comment
Yeah.
section. And the problem is because of, we're human beings and we're social animals. We look at the comment section as we use it as a thermometer to sort of gauge the temperature in the room. And if we see a lot of people agreeing with one thing or another, we outsource our critical thinking about that topic to what everyone else is
Mm.
saying. And we do that because again, we're just biologically wired to do that. That's how we've survived for,
Yeah.
millions of years at this point. And foreign governments, foreign actors, foreign entities, as well as domestic entities have started to take advantage of that, and it's just going to keep getting worse, especially with the rise of like AI generated content, not just comments. It's going to keep getting worse. So the thing that I say here is that I think most people in the US, if they had the choice to be able to post about whether or not they think Hillary Clinton was really eating babies in the basement of a pizza parlor,
What?
or they or they had the choice to actually just be able to pay their bills, have good relationships with their like family, their friends, have enough money for retirement, they would choose the second one,
Yeah.
right? But the problem is like we live in the age of modernity where things are moving so fast, and we lack a type of relationship with like a deep relationship with ourselves and indeed with something greater. And because of those two anxieties working together, we end up just outsourcing our entire view of the world to whatever makes us feel something. It's not what's most rational. It's whatever makes us feel something in like the numbness of existence. And when we turn on YouTube, Instagram, X, all of these different platforms, the thing that makes us feel something more than anything else is content that elicits rage. And
Yeah.
when you have content from Joe Rogan, from Alex Jones, from Elon Musk going out like literally at every hour of the day that make you question like your government, that make you hate the people around you, that make you think that everything is a conspiracy, you end up latching on to that because number one, it makes you feel something. But number two, it gives you a sense of feeling like you're a little bit higher in the social hierarchy that you are. Because when you're in on the conspiracy theory and you see the world for the way that it is, you're able to kind of look at the people around you and be like, oh, I'm so much better than all these people. They don't know. They're just normies. They're just sheep. So it gives you sort of like this narcissistic supply that you don't get from your everyday life because of the way that modernity has gone. Maybe you're disappointed with the way that your life has gone up until this point, and you're needing some sort of narcissistic supply that life just hasn't given you. Like it's all
Mm.
of these different things working together. And that's why I say, um,
Yeah.
at this point, the type of speech that's going out on the internet is really just heroin. And we need to either figure out a way to just completely limit free speech altogether and give it to a select group of individuals, which that's a really hot take. People don't like that take.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, as a starting point, go back to the type of legislation that we had in the United States back in like the 1970s or 80s, I think, where news organizations were required by law to present both sides of the political argument in a fair way in order
Yeah.
for their contents to like not break the law. And I think that type of legislation needs to be extended not just to MSNBC or Fox News or CNN, but it needs to be it needs to govern podcasts and content creators as well, because the longer we let this go on, the longer we allow foreign actors, people who have bad intentions inside of our own societies, people like me, even last year, with the type of content that I was
Hmm.
creating, it wasn't a net good for society. Like, we need all of those different actors to be limited in the type of damage that they can put on like the Western psyche. Otherwise, like shit is just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. That's my general thought on everything.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. I also think it's probably a little bit of too much of a hot take to say we limit it from free speech in general. People obviously really don't like it for a reason, but I really like this approach. We kind of have something similar in Germany with the media. Like you are not supposed to just say whatever on the news. So you actually do
Mm-hmm.
have a basis when you have political debates. The basis is provided for showing different sides in a more neutral way. What people do then, like what they say on podcasts, is a different kind of story, but at least the news are more neutral than what I experience over here. And it gives everyone the opportunity to speak and to convince, but without getting too dirty somehow.
Yeah, certainly.
I really like your take on that, and that there should be some regulations or something because, it kept me very entertained and engaged, this free speech topic, this entire time since I found your video. Because I myself would have never said we have to limit free speech, but there is something to it, especially when I define for myself what it actually is, and when I look around, and I am excluding the entire AI topic here. So this comes on top. This is an additional very important issue that we have to deal with. But even if I don't, even if I exclude this, then it gets wild because, well, there are people, they are promoting free speech here, free speech there on all social media platforms. I'm like, free speech or what you understand that free speech is, because when I take a look at these platforms and how people are interacting with each other, then this is basically Tourette syndrome, because people are just offending each other all the time, but it doesn't lead anywhere. Like there is no positive impact on society. Like what you said that you were reflecting on, that there was a period, let's say, in your life where you would make content that it's not necessarily you, so you would just push something out because you are not, because you don't feel well about stuff.
Mm.
But then like the step is missing between I don't like something and what do I make out of it. So people are just pushing out the negativity instead of asking themselves, how can I turn it into something useful for somebody else? And this is why when I think, are you using your free speech just to keep hating? Because then it's kind of useless that you have this freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the US people in the US are very much into the idea, especially if they're on the side of MAGA, into this idea of like having a pure meritocracy, right? But if they were really interested in having like a real meritocracy, again, there would be free speech for actual experts on their like area of expertise, and free speech would be limited for everyone else. That's what a real meritocracy would look like. And it's just, I don't know. It seems to be the case whenever you're working with someone on the MAGA side of things, or even the far left side of things. There aren't any real principled positions because these people are willing to like flip flop on any political opinion, depending on whether or not their side is in power or not. And that's just something that unfortunately is just part of human nature. And again, I don't fully blame these guys for it. Like we live in very, very complicated times, and our brains have been given something that we carry around all day, every day, that is literally the equivalent of having crack cocaine available to us at any given point. And there are no laws about it. We can literally
Yeah.
hop on and consume crack cocaine whenever we want. And content creators have realized this. And even content creators who go into content creation as regular, normal people with good intentions, there's something that happens as a result of being a content creator that causes you to fall into the trap of what I and a number of other people call algorithmic drift, where you slowly
Interesting.
start to put out content that appeals to your audience because it feels good, because it's more profitable to do so. This is another reason. And it wasn't just like my mental health that caused me to start posting like more and more and more rage bait that just appealed to my audience. A big reason for that is last year I was also, selling a high ticket product. And I knew that the only way that I was going to sell those high ticket products and to continuously give my high ticket sales team more and more leads is by giving my audience what it is that they wanted, which would keep my viewership up so that whenever
Mm-hmm.
I did a call to action for my actual program, I would get a lot of organic traffic for it. Now, was I consciously making that decision when I did that? No. And that was part of the kind of come to Jesus moment that I had to kind of figure out in the middle of last year. And this is also me being in this industry for a while, managing someone else's brands, having been around this type of thing for a while. But something happens when it's your brand, when it's
Yeah.
like your money that's on the table. The algorithmic drift is real. And if you can play into that rage baiting because you understand that it just affects people on the other side of those phones like crack cocaine, then
Yeah.
you do it. as consciously or subconsciously, and you have to really make a concerted effort not to. So it's just that, again, there are a lot of things that are stacked against the individual right now, uh, that are kind of screwing them over. So again, this is just yet another example why free speech is very complicated when it comes to content going out online.
Yeah, I love also the point that you made about content creators because like I'm one or I'm a new one, basically. But I see myself confronted with that challenge because I'm creating content for a long time, but it hasn't always been for myself. So I was on the brand side of the of marketing, and I was making content for L'Oreal brands, for BMW, for the big global brands, and I was just someone like people wouldn't know my face, they don't know who I am. I'm just the brand and you don't put so much of your own heart into it, even if you're being creative. But what you're saying is beneficial for the brand. It's not your real own thoughts. It's not what you believe in. It's not your philosophy necessarily, at least. So it is different when you just sit in front of the cam and you are like explaining your own ideas and what you want to bring into this world, and people see you as your own brand. It does something with you, and I'm seeing it right now because when I just started, which is not such a long time ago, but to do that for myself, I was just all vanilla, like just nice because what I actually want to do is having a positive impact. But I come from this philosophy direction, so I try to inspire people to be authentic, to really feel into their own intuition and understand what they want, no matter what everyone else is saying, which is a pretty much vanilla perspective if you're saying it with kind words. But not everyone is listening, but what people do listen to is when you're like edgy, when you say something that they don't like, when you come in with something controversial. And it's like it is such a challenge to not give up on yourself and your values and to not get sucked in into the negative bubble, even if you make fun of
Mm.
them, even if you are sometimes being funny. Like it helps being funny sometimes, but it's very challenging not to be sucked in into this negativity, which is super addictive. I can totally see that.
Yeah, 100%. Especially when you're online and like every other comment is like something super nasty, which again, in my opinion, is not even coming from like real people at this point. I think the majority of the comments that we see online are coming from bot farms that are there to actually piss people off because they understand that a civilization of people or a society of peoples who are psychologically miserable is easier to do what you want to with. So
Yeah.
again, that's me getting into the realm of like things that I can't prove, but yeah.
But you're also somebody who doesn't get too involved with things. Like if I check your comments, for example, you just let people talk or people or bots or whoever they are, but you don't actually
Oh yeah.
get involved too much.
Yeah, no. If the times that I get involved in my comment section are the times where like I become a much angrier person. I actively go out of my way to not engage with my comments for that exact purpose. And again, it's just I really do believe this whole like dead internet theory like bot idea. So who's to say that I'm not like arguing with, someone who's literally being paid to make me angry? Like what use of that?
Yeah,
Is that a good use of my time?
right, right. Yeah, I also wanted to ask you, like, what's your end goal or end game? Like, what do you want to achieve actually with the content that you are putting out?
Yeah, I'd like to establish very large networks that can be used to spread political ideology that is grounded in reality. What I mean by that is like I spend a lot of time studying ecom, even like what's happening with like TikTok Shop and that type of thing, and the different payment models that little micro creators can get compensated to basically post content. And there are a lot of really exciting developments on that side of things that I think can be applied into the political ecosystem. So I kind of have a three step plan that will probably take about a year to really follow through on that establishes a lot of very large decentralized networks of political content creation in a way that involves like my followers, other content creators, their followers, connecting all of those content creators with larger political organizations that again are like focused on like grounded reality. Ultimately, I think, and this is just me, I would hope that other content creators feel the same. But I actually don't have a problem, helping liberal or conservative, organizations spread political messaging as long as it's grounded in reality. I think putting out a multitude of different political ideas that are at least focused on solving a problem rather than just like focused on making you as angry as possible for views.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's actually healthy. We actually do need the back and forth. And as a result, I think any content creator who is in the political ecosystem should strive to be able to put out different ideas on the conservative side and the liberal side, regardless of whether or not like it's a legislative requirement for them to do so. Again, it's just I think that most people online simply end up believing whatever it is that they see the most. And if they can see more content that's grounded in reality than content that is there to elicit rage from them, it's going to be like the thing that I said at the beginning of our conversation regarding the comment section. The
Mhm.
more you see other people agreeing with something, the more you just outsource to that general consensus and say, okay, well, this must be the truth. And, you know, if that's the way that you kind of win the influence games rather than going in and trying to change the heart and souls of like every single individual in America, which is not something that you can just do with social media. I think you need to like incorporate the education system. You need to integrate the mental health system. Like
Yeah.
that's a multi-tiered project, right? But if you can, at the very least, get people grounded back in reality by just dousing them in information that is grounded in reality, that's a huge win societally. So that's kind of what it is that I'm going to try and build out over the next year, 2 years.
I love that. But and another message that I extract out of that is something that I'm preaching a lot when it comes to mental health issues, actually, is non-reaction. I love that because I
Mm,
think it will take the power away from so many people who are working with rage bait if people would just not react because there are like stunts, crazy things that people in power positions currently are doing. And the day after, it's all over LinkedIn. Like I'm a total LinkedIn victim. That's my ex. I don't even go on Twitter.
mm,
I'm on LinkedIn.
yeah.
And what I see there is like a lot of rage bait. Everyone's discussing it. Everyone hates it, especially in Germany. People are extremely, for American standards, there would be more on the left side. So of
Mm,
course they don't really appreciate at least this kind of audience on LinkedIn, and they don't really appreciate that, and they give all the attention to this stuff. And I was just thinking, what if this all happened and nobody would actually write anything about it? Wouldn't that be funny?
yeah, that would be funny. That's hilarious. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I don't know. This might also be a hot take as well, but I feel like when it comes to social media, people like these companies need to either get rid of comment sections entirely, or they need to simply require content creators to list their actual identities as well as where it is that in the world that they're based, and it needs to be verified through like an IP tracker kind of thing. And I know that would theoretically put me out of business, but
Mhm.
I would be okay with that because at that point you at least understand where the information is coming from and who it's coming from. I don't think that anonymous posting should actually be allowed in society, which again I understand
Yeah,
is a huge contradiction based on the fact that I'm wearing a mask. But for
that,
as long as things are legal, it is best to use the strategies that are working
yeah.
in order to try and ground people back in reality. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I was saying something similar the other day, just in a like more private context. I was saying that I um, totally see a world where everyone has to be registered with their ID to be on social media. I think that that would change a lot. So you are actually just allowed there when you are like human. So no
Yeah.
bots can be there because you're registered with your ID and with your full name. And what you can do to protect your identity is you can, of course, use a nickname, but still the platform would have your details. And I think that's very important because there are also people who are attacking because they know that they are anonymous and nobody can really find them and they have a private profile and they can just, harass others. And that's not okay. And I think a person would think twice if they would do that if they knew their name is there. Like people have your details if they want to, because it's also something that our brain isn't really wired for, is to be able to be anonymous all the time. Because when you're in the street and you go somewhere and you're just offending a woman, let's say, that doesn't
Yeah.
play out well for you. But if you do it online and nobody knows who you are, then that's like a huge problem. I think that'd be actually great. And I think even on X, this was a topic that there was like the question was raised, should we make it all um, yeah, ID based, but nothing came out of it ever.
Yeah, no, I really do think that I would take your plan and take it one step farther. I think people should have to have their real names on social media as well. In a way, it disincentivizes people to like number one, be on social media, which I think would be a societal good. If you can only interact on social media with things that are under your name, it's going to make you think twice about like leaving a comment or leaving a like anywhere, right? But on top of that, again, it just it would cause the rest of the social media platforms to be more like LinkedIn in a way that is so much more boring. Oh my God, I want to rip my eyes out whenever I scroll my LinkedIn feed because it's
Yeah,
just so like Wonder Bread, like white vanilla. But again, I think you have to make the determination about whether or not your society is more built around entertainment and rage or
yeah.
built around just like regular interactions that like support cohesion, even if it is boring. I think the latter is more useful.
Yeah, it shouldn't be so separated because it should be part of the real life as we know it and not like some other world where you deep dive into and you're a completely other persona and you can do whatever the dark side of you likes. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the actual issue. I agree. I really don't like LinkedIn. That's some kind of weird thing that I have that I'd still go there to check it out somehow also because I'm freelancing and like job wise
Yeah,
it can be beneficial.
very useful. Yeah,
Yeah, but people won't post extremely negative things there unless they don't really believe that. Like if this is not their actual take and if they cannot really prove it or explain it, they won't do that because everyone comes for them. Everyone knows where they work. Everyone knows their name. And
yeah.
yeah, that would be a good step. Thank you very much. This was so insightful. I really love your story. Like I can only just enhance that again. That's so beautiful what you made out of your experience. And when I was checking out your story, like for the listeners too, if you're interested, check out Antiprophet's story because he has it all linked there, like his own life experience. Was so interesting to read through that, like your years as a musician, then also your personal life that that you are referring to there. And while I was reading that, I was already like, this guy really wanted to get to know himself better somehow because he really went through a lot. And I admire that. I think that's great. I thank you for everything that you are doing online and yeah, that you're trying to do the best out of the information that we currently have.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is a lot of fun to just kind of throw around some of these ideas. I really appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, fabulous. Okay, great to meet you. Talk
Great
soon.
to meet you. Bye.
Bye.